Well, in today's video, we're going to go into my top 5 neighborhoods in Virginia Beach for 2024. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalone. I'm a real estate agent in the Hampton Roads area, and that goes from Virginia Beach and through Williamsburg, and I do videos every week about living and moving to the area. So I love Virginia Beach, and I love doing my top 5 videos. It's this time of year again, and we're going to go into neighborhoods all across the Virginia Beach area, from the east through the central, to the west, north side, all through Virginia Beach, because I've found spots that I think you need to be watchful for in 2024, and they make my top 5 neighborhoods in Virginia Beach in 2024. So number 1 is going to be on the eastern side of the Virginia Beach area. That's called Redmill Farm. And Redmill Farm is on the southeastern side of Virginia Beach, next to just south of Oceana Naval Air Station. If you look on the map, you'll see there's Upton Drive and there's Nemo Parkway, 2 roads that cross on the southeastern side here. And there are a couple different strip malls and shopping centers that are surrounding this area, and most of it's called Redmill. This is the Redmill area. Well, there are 3 different sections of Redmill Farm, and they're all built in different times. So the first area is Redmill Farm, built in the mid-1980s, and that grew into the southeastern section, which had more 2-story in it, more of a balance of both. And then as you go into the northeastern side of this section of Redmill Farm, you find more 2-story, because these are built in the early to mid-90s. So again, as time goes on, you started to see more of a trend towards that 2-story house as opposed to a 1-story. But point being, all 3 of these sections are generally speaking the same from the standpoint of lot size, the standpoint of how the roads feel. And so the area itself feels very, very quiet, very serene. And I like this a lot. And you find that as you get into the 80s and 90s houses, these neighborhoods have started to feel even more established because the trees have grown up more. And so you have more older trees as opposed to houses built more in like the 2000s and 2010s, where it just doesn't have that nature feel yet. Well, that's one of the reasons also why I like Redmill Farm. These houses are anywhere from like 3-4 bedrooms. You'll find some that are 5, but they're like anywhere from like the 1,600 square foot range up into the 2,000, 2,500 square foot range. And you'll see some creeping up towards the 3,000 square foot range as well. Now, the prices are going to be somewhere mostly in the upper 4s to start. Most of them are going to be in between the $500,000 and $600,000 price range. Why are they priced at this point? Well, part of this is because the Redmill Farm neighborhood is in 2 different very in-demand school districts. One is Kellam, and one is Ocean Lakes. And the Kellam School District side is on the southeastern side. So on the just kind of south of all the shopping centers, this area is all Kellam. And then on the north side is Ocean Lakes. So on the southeastern side, where the mid-80s or late 80s houses are built, this is in Kellam School District. And if you go across the road on Nemo Parkway, you'll find this over here is Ocean Lakes School District. So both of those are in high demand, and both of those carry a premium for price. So if you do want to be in this side of town, this is a big benefit, whether it be just for having kids in school, but also investment reasons. But it also can lead to higher prices, which is why some people don't always go to this section to get a 2,300 square foot house, for example. Because if you do want a house like in the lower 2,000 square foot range, you have a lot of options in Virginia Beach. So if you don't want school district, this might feel a bit more expensive than what you might need to pay to get what you want. But now, what else is around here? So main thing to keep in mind here is you're surrounded by strip malls and shopping centers. A couple primary ones are Strawbridge, which is just to the west of Redmill Farm, and then Redmill itself, the shopping center, which is just south of it. Then of course Redmill itself, which is just south of Nemo Parkway, which is kind of catty corner to part of Redmill Farm. Then of course further south you get more strip malls. You got Home Depot. You got more Harris Teeters. Like the Redmill Village section is further south below Redmill Farm, so you're kind of tucked between a bunch of different strip malls, and all your shopping is extremely close. And that's one thing that I think that is being close to this type of shopping doesn't always lead to a more expensive price. There are a lot of places that are very close, but just having an extra 2-3 minutes drive doesn't really change the price very much. So being very close to shopping is a great kind of a hidden gem piece. Another benefit is you're only like 10 minutes away from Sandbridge Beach, which is one of the, I'd say the not the most in-demand beach that most people go to, but it is an expensive beach to stay at, and it's the most, I'd say, secluded beach because it's tucked away in the southeastern corner of Virginia Beach, and so being close to it is, not many people have the ability to say that they're this close to Sandbridge. And so, like, for example, when I lived like in Chesapeake or even in other parts of Virginia Beach, driving to Sandbridge felt like a mission, like 40, 45, 50 minutes, because it's so far away from the rest of the city. But if you're close to Sandbridge, I just think it's great. It's a nice side benefit. You don't always have to drive to the ocean front, even though you're only 12, 15 minutes away from the ocean front as well. The one thing about Redmill Farm, though, while it's not in the lowest jet noise zone sections of Virginia Beach, and it's not in the noisiest, it is in a little bit of an elevated jet noise zone section of Virginia Beach. So if you look at the ACU's jet noise zone map, you'll see where Redmill Farm is in relation to the Oceana Naval Air Station itself, and you'll see it's close. But again, just because it's close doesn't mean it's going to be the loudest or super, super loud, but you will hear it. And I would say keep that in mind and drive through definitely during the week before you make a purchasing decision, so you can get used to and know what a normal day or how loud a normal jet flying near the neighborhood can sound like. And I definitely suggest talking to neighbors about this as well. So that leads me to number 4 on the list, which is further towards the central but still on the eastern side of Virginia Beach, which is I think one of the most overlooked. I love this neighborhood. One of the best neighborhoods, I think, in Virginia Beach, in this section of the city especially, is an area called Christopher Farms, which just off of Holland Road, which is not that far away from the area we were talking about before on Nemo Parkway. Christopher Farms Elementary and then Kellum High School. Big deal. That creates a certain level of price increase, which is why these houses are mostly priced in the low 6s and mid 6s. But these are a lot of family style houses, two-story, 4-bedroom and up, a lot of them, and they're over 2,000 square feet, closer to 3,000 square feet. A little bit higher price, which you'll find in Redmill Farm, but you're usually going to get a higher sized house, which a lot of people that are looking for, like the 25, 27, 3,000 square foot houses, might trend towards a place like Christopher Farms. To me, it has some of the closest dynamics of a vibe of like an older established neighborhood combined with a newer house. Similar to what like you'd find in Redmill Farm, but I think even turned up even more a little bit. And I think part of it too is the fact that as you drive into the neighborhood, you'll get like an open, like a lake area, like a big green space. And so there's an HOA, which is part of why you see this green space and it's why it's well taken care of. But this whole dynamic, this feel is just different enough to where it feels like you're not just buying a cookie cutter neighborhood, which is I just think is a huge deal, especially as you get into these newer 80s, 90s, 2000s neighborhoods, because a lot of them can feel very similar to each other. So finding those subtle differences, to me, makes it just worth going after more than another neighborhood that you might find close by. Because these houses were built in the 90s, in mid 90s, you're going to find that they are a little bit more contemporary style as well. So as you get into the mid 90s, that this change of like more compartmentalized rooms starts shifting into a little bit more open floor plan, more contemporary. And so while it's not full contemporary yet and more fully open, it's getting there, and it feels more open than I think you'd find in others that might maybe built in the 80s and earlier than that. And so that to me is another benefit to being in Christopher Farms, is the style of house that you find mostly in the neighborhood. And another thing too is some of these lots are a little bit larger as well, just big enough to where it feels like you have a little bit more separation between you and your neighbors. Not all of them, but some of them, again, it just creates that added dynamic of a bit more established and comfortable. Another thing you'll find in the neighborhood is not all of them, but some of the streets have sidewalks, and so if you do feel like you'd prefer sidewalks over walking on the street itself, another benefit. However, in neighborhoods like this, I'm not as worried about the traffic and the craziness of being on the actual street as you're walking. Like personally, so we live in a neighborhood that doesn't have sidewalks, and I walk and bike on the streets very all the time, and it's not a big deal. And like people walk their dogs through the neighborhoods a lot, so very common for people to walk without sidewalks. But if you do want a sidewalk, this neighborhood has some, so I think that's a benefit as well if you're looking for that type of vibe. And then some of the more expensive houses in the neighborhood are also on the lake, and because there is a lake in the neighborhood, and so I think being on that has an extra added level of comfort too, that isn't as common to find in all the neighborhoods in Virginia Beach. Now the drawbacks are going to be mainly it's going to be the price, number one, but two is going to be it's also in a just elevated jet noise zone area, similar to what you'd find in Redmill Farm. So it's not fully far away from Oceana Naval Air Station. It's close enough to where you'll hear the jets, but it's not so close to where it's like super, super loud either. So again, talk to neighbors, see what their responses have been for the jets, but I think you you might find it's not super loud compared to what you could find as you get closer to the Oceana Naval Air Station. So that leads me over to the northwestern section of Virginia Beach. Up as you go further into the corner, if you've heard of Chicks Beach, it's one of the popular neighborhood beaches in Virginia Beach. Well, just south of there is a neighborhood that I absolutely love, is Thoroughgood. Thoroughgood is a huge neighborhood, a lot of land, a lot of water access along the edges of the neighborhood, but it has so many houses in here, so many options, so many big lots, nice houses. That's on the northwestern corner of Virginia Beach, so it's close to Shore Drive, close to Chicks Beach. It's also close to Northampton Boulevard, which is Route 13. All these roads, they're all access points to other primary sections of Virginia Beach. So you can easily take Independence Boulevard all the way down to Town Center. It's like 12 minutes. You can get to Chicks Beach in like 7 or 8. You can get to the Little Creek base in like same thing, 7 or 8. So all this makes it very convenient in this section. And I think one of the best points is being close to Shore Drive, because being this Route 60 right here, just north of Thoroughgood, if you take a Shore Drive, you can get all the way across to the other side of Virginia Beach, around towards the First Landing State Park, all the way down to the ocean front. Like, you can take a whole loop around the entire city if you just take Route 60 or Shore Drive. Or you can also go over to Ocean View in Norfolk in the same road, or go towards the Norfolk Navy Base, which is just off of Route 60 and 64. So having the size of house that you can get here, so 2,000 to 3,000 to even 3,500, even 4,000 and up sometimes, getting the size house, the size lots, which are, you can even tell they're bigger than what you would expect in other parts of Virginia Beach, and also 2-story and ranch. However, if you want ranch, this is a high concentration of ranch style houses in here. You'll find them both, but you'll find a lot more ranches than anything else. That could be a positive for some people. It could be a negative if you don't like ranches. But these are built more in the 50s and 60s, so they're older houses. So with that, you have a lot, like, I think, very well built construction, a lot of brick houses in Thoroughgood. So that also leads to the fact that, again, with these lot sizes, they are so uncommon. As you got further into like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you started seeing a lot less houses built on larger lots. Thoroughgood isn't like that. Thoroughgood has a much wider, like you even see the houses are further set off the road, which I think is cool too. So while the roads in Thoroughgood I feel kind of narrow because there are no sidewalks. There's some ditches on the sides of the road. That being said, you're still far off the road, so it doesn't feel like you're on top of the actual road and cars going by. So that's another benefit too. And this is also Princess Anne High School District, which is a big deal too. Thoroughgood Elementary School. Another benefit of being in Thoroughgood is you're right across the street from Bayville Farms Park, which is a big park. Awesome park next to the Bayville Golf Club, which is one of the most prestigious golf clubs in Virginia Beach or in the Hampton Roads area. But Bayville Farms has a disc golf course, volleyball, tennis courts, pickleball now, and you can pretty much walk to the park from Thoroughgood. And then you're also next to Pleasure House Point, which is a nice, like, it's a super quiet. Very few people know about how quiet and how awesome this park is. Trails you can walk around through, like on the south side of it, all across the water, right near the creeks. There is an area, a building called the Brock Environmental Center, which I didn't even know you could even go into until recently, and even just have a picnic along near the water, right next to the environmental center. Nobody does it. It's quiet over there. I think it's awesome. Now the prices in here, you can find some you can squeak under $6 sometimes, but usually they're going to be starting in this mid $6s into the $700 and $800 and $900 price range. And so if you get near the water or on the water, you're talking over $1 million, because some of this water access is very, very prime. And if you can find a house in Thoroughgood in a price that you feel comfortable in, I would go after it a lot. I think there's some drawbacks. However, the one big one I think is the fact that they're older houses, 50s and 60s, so you find that there are more old house problems. Cast iron waste lines and drain lines. You got, a lot of old electrical systems. So that can lead to more upgrading. Sometimes you might find that these are, they're 60 years old, so they're going to be often sometimes not as well taken care of. And if you don't take care of your house for 50 years, you'll find more just random deferred maintenance. So that kind of stuff, like older windows if they haven't been replaced. So that they're not all like this, but you can definitely find that, as time has gone on, you'll find more defects in in houses like this because they're just old houses. So keep that in mind too as you're buying a house like in Thoroughgood, that you're not just buying the house, you're definitely buying a situation because you're doing more work and upkeep to a house because it's an older house, which is going further south in the central part of Virginia Beach. And if you're looking for a more affordable option, in the under $4 price range, even $375 sometimes, it's very hard to find this type of house in a neighborhood that feels very quiet or comfortable and also accessible to a lot of things. There's one I think that is awesome that I think gets overlooked all the time, which is Windsor Woods and Windsor Oaks. It's two combined, and it's you see Rosemont Road right here. Rosemont Road and Holland Road, they intersect here. Well, as you come into the northwestern corner away from that section near South Plaza Trail, this whole section right here is Windsor Woods and Windsor Oaks. And so I don't just separate one to the other because even though they do have different names, they're close enough in feel to where they're the same, similar price range, similar feel, similar access to different things. So I think they're worth all considering at the same time. Now, these are a lot of them are going to be ranches, but you do start seeing a balance of both. They're going to be two-story as well. Anywhere from like 1,500 square feet, you can see them in 17, 2,000, even 25 sometimes. But a lot of these are going to be under 400,000, which is a big benefit. And so if you want a house that, if you need 4 bedrooms, for example, it's hard to find 4 bedrooms in a solid house under 400 or 415, right? And I like this neighborhood for that reason. And especially if you want a 3-bedroom house, you can get a real solid 3-bedroom, 1,700 square foot house, 380, 390, and you can be in this section and enjoy access to, for example, Mount Trashmore, which especially if you're in Windsor Oaks, which is on the western side, you can walk there pretty easily. There's a access point just on the edge of the neighborhood into Mount Trashmore itself. Now, you're not just close to Mount Trashmore, you're close to town center. You're only like 8 minutes away from town center, and so if you want Wegmans, if you want a Walmart, you're close to that too. Now you look online, you'll notice that there are some sections around here that have had issues with flooding. One near Bow Creek Boulevard, which is just east of this section. That's one of the drawbacks too on the further eastern side of this area, is that it has had bad flooding issues in the past. Hurricane Matthew in 2015 came here and decimated the area around Bow Creek Boulevard, and so you'll find a lot of houses that were renovated in 2016 because they were just wiped out pretty much after the flooding in Hurricane Matthew. Now, this is a focus of the city to help fix and revitalize this section and help mitigate the flooding issues that had happened in the past. Now, another drawback to being in Windsor Oaks and Windsor Woods is that these houses, while they're functional, they're in neighborhoods that I think are very quiet and very nice. If you're looking for an older house, for example, there's like a character style that like a house in the 60s, even sometimes in the 70s has, but this type, to me, doesn't feel as unique or as characterful as you might find in other parts of Virginia Beach. So I'd say that's one of the reasons why I'm not as big a fan of Windsor Woods and Oaks, is that it just doesn't have any uniqueness to it. But if you're okay with getting rid of that, I think that being in Windsor Woods and Oaks just creates a lot of other benefits and keeps the prices low. So I do like that dynamic of being in this neighborhood a lot. So that leads me to my number 1 neighborhood in Virginia Beach, which is one of my favorites. It's awesome. It's called Lamore. If you've never heard of Lamore, it's back in the southeastern section, and it's close to Sandbridge and Redmill Farm, like where we were earlier in the video. And if you want character, but you also want the school district or the section of town, it's hard to find both. Lamore has both. Now, there are 2 sides of Lamore. So there's the south side of Lamore that is the Kellum High School District. And that is the area built in the 80s into the 90s. I like this area a lot because you've got a ton of trees. When you drive in, you are just taken over by the feeling of being like in the woods. And this is so cool. And it's hard to find this because you also have very unique house designs. So some of them are kind of weird. Some of them are awesome. Some are mixed in between, but you've got weird sized lots, big lots sometimes, big houses sometimes. You get anywhere from 2,000 square feet to like 4,000 or higher. You get a lot of variety in Lamore, especially even in Lamore South. Now, going over to the north side, you get more newer style. Now, it's newer construction. Even some are brand new. These are larger. Like these are more like in the 3,000 and up size. and you're going to be paying more for them. So while the south side can start even in the sevens, even lower than that, so $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 range, the newer side, you're going to be paying starting more like in the eights and up. And so the newer construction, you're going to be pushing over $1 million. And so some of these are big, got nice pools, all of that, and you might even pay more than that, 1.1 sometimes. You're starting to push that line as you get into the higher sized houses in Lamore. So what else is great in Lamore? Well, you've got a lot of natural areas around Lamore. You got a trail that goes through there as well. You're also very close to Sandbridge, even closer than Redmill itself. So being this close to the beach is awesome, and you don't feel like you're in a beach neighborhood. So in addition, I mentioned before, positive is on the south side of the neighborhood, you're in the Kellum School District. North side, Ocean Lakes. Both of them are in high demand, which is also adds to the price of the house as well. Also, you're just right down the street from all those major shopping centers I mentioned before near Redmill Farm. You're just like 2-3 more minutes away from the same spots. So I think that is a huge benefit. And some of these houses are so weird. Some of them are like very, very stately. You got a big mixture in Lamore, and you're paying for it. But I love the differences. I love the uniqueness. I love that you don't find the same thing over and over again, which is so hard to find in these southeastern sides of Virginia Beach, where it's like, a lot of these plain subdivisions look the same over and over again, which has its benefits. But when you find something that's so unique, you want to just kind of grab onto it. Another benefit is that it is in the lowest jet noise zone in Hampton Roads. So I talked about Redmill Farm, which is just to the west of Lamore. Well, that goes into the next level up. Well, Lamore is away from here just enough to where you're not in that same zone. Now, you might hear jets, come further off in the distance, but it won't be as big of a factor as if you get closer and closer to the Oceana Naval Air Station. Now, a couple drawbacks. Number one is going to be that, of course, the price. If you're trying to stay under, $600,000-$700,000, it's hard to find a house in Lamore that's in that price range. Number two is going to be that it is far away from things. So even like with Redmill Farm, I'll show you. You're on the southeastern corner of Virginia Beach, but you're right. Like you're on the edge. So if you want to get more towards like the central part, town center, towards even like Hilltop, everything feels far from Lamore because you are definitely in the corner of Virginia Beach. So if that's annoying to you, I definitely think you might want to rethink looking at a house like in Lamore and focus on other neighborhoods in the same price range in different parts of the city. So if you have any more questions about relocating to Virginia Beach or Hampton Roads through Williamsburg, let me know. This is what I do. I love helping people relocate to the area. So if you have any questions, drop a comment, throw a text, call. You can text me, call me, email me, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.